How's it going, guys? So I'm going to be filming that Q&A in just a second, but I had a really cool idea that I don't want to let get away from me. One of my more popular build videos is the PVC bow build video, and I think it's one of the more popular videos just because it's so easy and it's so cheap and because it's so effective. So I thought it would be an ideal candidate to do an upgrade to it. So here's all the stuff we're going to need. Gloves, because we are working with fiberglass stuff today. We're not actually doing any fiberglassing ourselves, but you can still get really nasty splinters from But you can still get really nasty splinters from prefabricated fiberglass stuff that's already made. You're also going to want some goggles and a dust mask. But as for the actual building materials, this does not call for much. For the bowstring, we're going to be using paracord. Now, supposedly, paracord is like the worst thing in the whole entire world that you can use for bowstring because it stretches, apparently. This paracord is made of polypropylene, polyester, and nylon. If you're having trouble with your paracord stretching, you might want to check to see if it's made of some other stuff, but I've never had a problem with this stuff stretching, so I'm going to be using that. We're going to be using 2 clothesline pulleys, 4 fiberglass highway marker rods, some 3/4 inch PVC pipe, 6 hex nuts, 6 flat washers, 2 lock washers, and 2 2.5 inch long bolts. All of these things are 1/4 inch in size. So the first step is measuring out your fiberglass rods. I just measured these and they are 48 inches. If you want your bow to be shorter, you're going to have to shorten these things. So now you measure out your PVC pipe to the same length as the fiberglass rods plus 4 inches. So I had 48 inches. I'm going to measure out 52 inches on here. Here's my mark. Now I cut it with a hacksaw. Then once it's cut off there, you're going to cut a 2-inch line this way. Then find a piece of material that in thickness is equal to or slightly greater than the height of one of your wheels with a couple of hex nuts stacked on top of it. And if you don't have anything, then just make it. I made this out of a couple of pieces of scrap wood and I just glued them together. So we're going to take this little $15 heat gun and heat up the end of the PVC until it's soft. And then once it's soft, we're going to take that little piece of material that we just made, stick it down into the gap, and then we're going to put 2 more pieces of scrap wood on the sides of that and clamp it down so that once it cools down, you end up with a piece of PVC that's shaped sort of like this, and we're going to drill the hole later. Let it cool off for about 5 minutes and then you can take the stuff off. Alright, so usually in build videos when I mess something up, what I'll do is I'll just put the fix in the video as though it were something that was like just a part of the initial build. But I feel like what that might do is kind of give off the impression to you guys that I don't mess up very much. And that might be kind of discouraging for some of you guys because you might start trying to build things and you see yourself messing up a lot and you start to wonder like what's wrong with me, like maybe I'm just not a good builder, maybe I'm not meant for this. But I think in the future now when I mess things up and I have to fix them, I'm gonna leave it in the video just so you guys see that the path to creativity is full of mistakes, and no matter who you are, as long as you are continuously improving, you're gonna keep on making mistakes over and over and over. So here's how I messed up. This part right here came out exactly like it was supposed to, and the initial plan was to put the wheel in here and run a bolt through it, but I realized that because there is a string coming around the back right here that has to come out right here, this bow would have to be bent into almost like a U shape in order for the string to come out from here and go into the other side in the same spot. And bending it into a U shape is way too much stress on the PVC, so I went out and I bought these 90-degree elbows, and now I have to cut this off an inch below the cut that we made earlier. So you end up with this. Now you just gotta make 1 more of these. And after you do that press, you might notice that the PVC is a little bit slanted like this, so to fix that, we're just gonna cut off a little bit right here and then cut some off right there, and it should look pretty normal after that. So here's how that ends up. Now I'm just gonna round it out a little bit to make it look a little nicer. So now we've got these two pieces, but now this PVC pipe is a little bit too short to actually use for the bow, so we're gonna have to use a brand new piece of PVC. That totally could have been avoided if instead of adding 4 inches to the initial length that you measured with the fiberglass rods, if you added 6 inches to account for these things that you're gonna cut off the ends of them. So now we drill a couple of 1/4-inch holes here and here. Then once you've got the holes drilled, you're gonna take some really rough sandpaper and use it to scratch some horizontal lines on the PVC. You're also gonna do that on the inside of the elbow, and then just take either some PVC cement or some really high strength epoxy, put it on the PVC and insert this into the elbow and just leave it there for as long as it takes to dry. Or if you just want to do the cementing and epoxying all at the same time, you can just hold off on that for a second. We'll do the rest of the bow first. So all you have to do for this is just take the fiberglass rods, bunch them up, and put a little bit of duct tape around them. This seems kind of ghetto, but you're not going to see this part anyways. And it really doesn't take any more tape than this. Any more tape and you'll kind of have a rough time getting the rods into the pipe. And guess what? Now we put the rods in the pipe. So the fiberglass is in, you just rough up the ends here with the sandpaper just like the other thing, and then you can just start mixing up your epoxy and putting stuff together. Here's how it looks all put together. Now we have to install the pulleys. To get the wheel out from this little plastic thing, all you have to do is push on this little cap here. That end will pop out. You just use a Dremel tool or a hacksaw to cut off that little end piece, and this pin should pop out. Then you can just take the wheel out. And sadly, the little metal tube that comes inside the wheel is just a little bit too small for me to fit the 1/4-inch bolt into, so I'm going to have to take it out. I'm just going to use my drill. Oh wow, that was incredibly easy. So we got that little thing out, now it should be pretty easy to put the bolt in. So here's the configuration of washers and nuts. You're gonna first put on a lock washer, then you put on a flat washer, put that partially into one of the holes. Then put a nut on the end of the bolt, and then we're going to put the wheel on. Then once the wheel's on, we're gonna put a nut right there, and then we're gonna tighten this bolt all the way down until this nut is tight up against the top of this bolt. And then once you tighten it enough that this lock washer is flat, then you're going to put another washer here, a lock washer here, and then this nut on here, and tighten it down until these two are tight together. Just make sure you leave enough room between these two nuts to make sure that the wheel can still spin freely. Then after that, just another washer, lock washer, and nut, and you've created a little space to put the string. Now you can trim off this part of the bolt. And then just do the same thing on the other end, but make sure the little place that you made to put the string is on the same side on the other end. So I've got both ends finished, and I'm sure you don't have to do this, but I did it just in case. Put a couple rivets here and here, just to hold it in a little bit better in case for some reason the 3,200-pound epoxy that I used isn't strong enough. So I've cut a strip out from the bend in a pop bottle, and now you're going to tape it right about here. That mark right there is the dead center of the PVC. And now that it's taped on there, you can wrap this part in some hockey tape for a grip. Now with that, aside from stringing it, your bow is finished. Now I'm gonna wait to let the epoxy harden for a little bit longer, so in the meantime, I'm gonna teach you how to make the arrow.